The cabin was supposed to be empty. That's what Maya had been told when she packed her bag and drove 3 hours into the mountains. Her best friend had promised her a quiet weekend alone, a chance to finish writing her research paper without any distractions. The key was under the mat. The fridge was stocked, and she had 3 whole days of silence ahead of her. But when she pushed open the heavy wooden door, rainwater dripping from her hair and jacket, she found someone already inside. A man sat at the kitchen table with a steaming cup of coffee and a laptop open in front of him. He looked up, just as surprised to see her as she was to see him. They stared at each other for a long moment. Maya recognized him immediately. It was Daniel, her best friend's older brother. The same Daniel she'd been carefully avoiding for the past 2 years. The same one who made her nervous at every family dinner and holiday gathering. The same one she'd trained herself not to think about. Daniel stood up quickly, nearly knocking over his coffee. "Maya? What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," she said, still standing in the doorway. "Lisa told me I could use the cabin this weekend." Understanding dawned on his face. "She told me the same thing. I needed a quiet place to work on my project." They both pulled out their phones, checking their messages. Sure enough, Lisa had accidentally double-booked the cabin. She'd promised it to both of them, and then apparently forgotten about it entirely. Maya started to dial her friend's number, but Daniel stopped her. "There's no signal," he said. "Storm must be interfering with the towers." As if to emphasize his point, thunder rumbled overhead. The rain that had been steady during Maya's drive suddenly intensified, hammering against the cabin's roof like 1,000 drums. She walked to the window and looked out at the darkening sky. The weather looked worse than the forecast had predicted. Daniel joined her at the window, keeping a careful distance between them. "The road you came in on? It's probably flooding already. These mountain roads become rivers when it rains like this." Maya felt her stomach sink. She checked her phone again, hoping for even one bar of signal. Nothing. The weather app wouldn't even load. They were cut off from the outside world, and from the looks of the storm, they would be for a while. "I guess we're both stuck here," Daniel said quietly. The cabin suddenly felt much smaller than it had a moment ago. Maya had spent 2 years making sure she was never alone with Daniel. 2 years of making excuses to leave rooms when he entered them, of avoiding eye contact, of pretending she didn't feel anything when he was near, and now they were trapped together in a tiny cabin in the middle of nowhere. "I can take the small bedroom," she offered, trying to keep her voice steady. "You were here first, so you can have the main space." "That's fine," Daniel agreed quickly. Too quickly. He seemed just as uncomfortable as she felt. They moved around each other carefully for the rest of that first evening, like 2 strangers forced to share an elevator. Maya unpacked her things in the smaller bedroom, taking longer than necessary just to avoid going back into the main room. When she finally emerged, Daniel had made dinner. Just simple pasta. But he'd set 2 places at the table. They ate in awkward silence, the rain continuing its relentless assault on the roof. Maya focused on her plate, hyper-aware of every sound Daniel made. The clink of his fork, the way he cleared his throat before speaking, the careful distance he maintained between them. After dinner, they established a routine without really discussing it. Maya would work at the dining table. Daniel would take the couch in the living room. They'd stay out of each other's way. They'd be polite but distant. They'd pretend everything was normal. But nothing about this situation was normal. As Maya tried to focus on her research paper that night, she found herself reading the same paragraph over and over. She was too aware of Daniel in the next room, too conscious of the fact that they were alone together for the first time in years. Outside, the storm showed no signs of stopping. The wind picked up, shaking the cabin's windows. Tree branches scraped against the walls, and Maya realized with a sinking feeling that this weekend was going to be much harder than she'd anticipated. She'd spent so long avoiding Daniel, so long pretending she didn't feel anything when he walked into a room. But now, there was nowhere to run, no excuse to leave, no friend to use as a buffer between them. Just the 2 of them, the storm, and all the feelings she'd been trying so hard to ignore. Morning came with no change in the weather. If anything, the rain fell harder. Maya woke to the sound of it beating against her bedroom window and the distant rumble of thunder. She stayed in bed longer than usual, dreading the moment she'd have to face Daniel again. When she finally emerged, she found him already awake, standing by the kitchen window with a cup of coffee. He turned when he heard her footsteps. "Road's completely flooded," he said, gesturing outside. "I checked the ranger station frequency on the emergency radio. They're saying nobody should try to leave until the storm passes." "How long will that be?" Maya asked, though she already knew the answer wouldn't be good. "Could be days. Maybe 3 or 4 if we're unlucky. 3 or 4 days, alone together." Maya felt her heart rate pick up. "Right. Okay." Daniel poured her a cup of coffee without asking, adding just the right amount of milk. She noticed but didn't comment on it. How did he know how she took her coffee? Had he been paying attention all those times they'd avoided each other? They fell into a routine over the next day. Polite conversation about safe topics, the weather, their work, anything that didn't touch on the real reason the air between them felt so heavy. Maya would catch herself watching him sometimes when he was focused on his laptop. The way his brow furrowed when he concentrated. The absent way he'd run his hand through his hair when he was thinking. Then she'd force herself to look away, reminding herself why she'd been avoiding him in the first place. Daniel was her best friend's brother. Getting involved with him would complicate everything. It was easier to just keep her distance. To pretend the attraction didn't exist. Except now she couldn't keep her distance. The cabin was too small. They were forced into each other's space constantly, making meals together in the tiny kitchen, passing each other in the narrow hallway, sitting in the same room because there was nowhere else to go. On the second night, something shifted. They'd been making dinner together, moving around the kitchen in a surprisingly comfortable rhythm. Maya was chopping vegetables while Daniel stirred a pot on the stove. It felt almost domestic, natural in a way that scared her. "You know," Daniel said suddenly, "we don't have to keep pretending." Maya's knife stilled on the cutting board. "Pretending what?" "That this isn't awkward. That we haven't been avoiding each other for 2 years. He turned to face her, his expression serious. "I know you feel it too." Her first instinct was to deny it, to deflect. But something about the storm, about being trapped here together, made lying feel pointless. "Yes," she admitted quietly. "I feel it." Daniel set down his spoon. "Why do we do this? Why do we run from each other at every family gathering?" "Because it's complicated," Maya said, focusing on the vegetables in front of her. "You're Lisa's brother. If things went wrong between us, it would mess up everything. And if we never try? If we spend years avoiding each other, always wondering what might have happened? Always wondering what might have happened." Maya didn't have an answer for that. The question hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility. That night, after the power went out and they sat by firelight, they talked more honestly than they ever had before. Daniel admitted he'd noticed her the first time Lisa brought her home from college. Maya confessed she'd felt drawn to him immediately but had convinced herself nothing could ever happen. They sat on opposite ends of the couch, the fire casting dancing shadows on the walls. The storm continued outside, but inside the cabin, something was changing. The careful distance they'd maintained was slowly crumbling. When Daniel's hand brushed hers while reaching for his water glass, neither of them pulled away. "I've been running from this for so long," Maya said softly. "I don't even know why anymore." "Fear, maybe," Daniel suggested. "Fear of ruining what we have. Fear of disappointing Lisa. Fear of getting hurt. All of the above," Maya agreed. They sat in silence for a while, watching the fire burn low. And for the first time in 2 years, the silence between them didn't feel awkward. It felt comfortable. Right. Like maybe they'd been running from something that didn't need to be feared at all. The third morning brought something unexpected. Maya woke to find sunlight streaming weakly through her bedroom window. For a moment, she thought the storm had passed. But when she looked outside, she saw it was just a temporary break in the clouds. Rain still fell, just softer now. She found Daniel already in the kitchen, making breakfast. He'd figured out where everything was kept, and the smell of eggs and toast filled the small space. When he saw her, he smiled, a real smile, not the polite, careful one he usually gave her. "Hungry?" he asked. They ate together, and the conversation came easier than it ever had before. They laughed about the time Lisa had accidentally locked them both on the balcony during her graduation party. How they'd stood on opposite sides for 20 minutes, until someone noticed. They talked about their work, their hopes, the things they'd never had a chance to discuss when they were busy avoiding each other. Maya found herself relaxing in a way she never had around Daniel. The constant tension she usually felt in his presence was fading, replaced by something warmer. Something that felt dangerously like happiness. After breakfast, they abandoned their laptops entirely. The work they'd come here to do seemed less important now. Instead, they spent the afternoon talking. Really talking. Daniel told her about why he'd chosen his career path, about the doubts he sometimes had. Maya shared her dreams, the ones she usually kept private. "Why haven't we ever done this before?" Maya asked at one point. They were sitting on the couch, closer together than they would have been even yesterday. "Because we were too scared," Daniel said simply. "At least, I was. Every time I saw you, I wanted to talk to you. Really talk to you. But I convinced myself it was better to keep my distance." "I did the same thing," Maya admitted. "I thought if I just avoided you long enough, the feelings would go away." "Did they?" She looked at him. At the hope and vulnerability in his eyes. "No, they never did." The rain picked up again outside, but neither of them noticed. Daniel reached for her hand, and this time it wasn't accidental. His fingers threaded through hers. Warm and sure. Maya's heart was racing, but she didn't pull away. "What are we doing?" she whispered. "I don't know," Daniel said honestly. "But I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of running." When he leaned in, Maya didn't move away. The moment stretched between them, full of 2 years of suppressed wanting. And then his lips met hers, gentle at first, then deeper. Maya felt like she was falling and flying at the same time. They pulled apart, both breathing hard. Maya's mind was racing with thoughts of what this meant, what they were risking. But her heart felt lighter than it had in years. "We should talk about this," she said, even as she stayed close to him. "I know," Daniel agreed, but neither of them moved. They sat together on the couch as the afternoon faded into evening, hands still intertwined, foreheads touching. The cabin felt like its own small world, separate from all the complications waiting outside. Maya knew they couldn't stay in this bubble forever. Eventually, the storm would end. They'd have to face reality, face Lisa, face all the reasons they'd convinced themselves this could never work. But for now, in this moment, none of that seemed to matter. For the first time in 2 years, Maya let herself feel everything she'd been holding back. And it was terrifying. But it was also the most honest she'd felt in a long time. As night fell and they lit candles around the cabin, Maya realized something important. She'd spent so long running from her feelings because she was afraid of complications, afraid of losing her friendship, afraid of getting hurt. But maybe some things were worth the risk. Maybe some people were worth fighting for. She looked at Daniel in the candlelight and saw the same realization in his eyes. They'd crossed a line tonight, and there was no going back. The question now was whether they had the courage to move forward. Morning arrived too soon, bringing harsh reality with it. Maya woke, tangled in complicated thoughts. Last night had been beautiful, honest, real, but now, in the gray light of dawn, all her fears came rushing back. She found Daniel already awake, standing by the window with his phone in his hand. "Signal's back," he said when he heard her approach. "Storm's clearing. Roads should be passable by this afternoon." The news should have been a relief. Instead, Maya felt panic rising in her chest. Once they left this cabin, everything would change. They'd have to face the real world. Face Lisa. Face all the complications they'd been able to ignore while trapped here together. Daniel turned to face her, and she could see the same uncertainty in his eyes. We need to talk about what happens next. 1. They sat down at the kitchen table, coffee cooling between them. The easy warmth from last night felt fragile now, threatened by the approaching end of their isolation. Lisa is going to be upset, Maya said, voicing the fear that had been gnawing at her all morning. She's my best friend. She trusted me. And now I've gone and developed feelings for her brother. She'll understand, Daniel said, but he didn't sound entirely convinced. Will she? Think about it from her perspective. Her best friend and her brother, getting involved behind her back while staying at her family's cabin. It looks bad. Daniel reached for her hand, but Maya pulled back. She saw the hurt flash across his face, and it broke her heart. But she needed to think clearly. And she couldn't do that when he was touching her. Maybe this was a mistake, she said quietly. Maybe the storm just made us confused. We were stuck together, emotions were high, and we mistook all of that for something real. You don't believe that, Daniel said firmly. What I feel for you isn't because of the storm or the cabin or some temporary confusion. I've felt this way for 2 years. The storm just finally gave us the chance to be honest about it. But what if honesty isn't enough? Maya stood up, pacing the small kitchen. What if we try this, and it doesn't work out? Then I lose you, and I probably lose Lisa too. I lose everything. Or, Daniel countered, standing to face her. What if we don't try? What if we walk away from this and spend the rest of our lives wondering? What if we go back to avoiding each other, but now it's even worse, because we know what we're missing? Maya felt tears prickling her eyes. He was right, and she knew it. But knowing it didn't make the fear go away. I'm scared, Daniel. I'm really scared. So am I, he admitted. I'm terrified. But I'm more scared of losing you without even trying. They stood in the kitchen, the air heavy with everything unsaid. Outside, the clouds were breaking up, patches of blue sky visible for the first time in days. Time was running out. What do you want? Daniel asked softly. Forget about Lisa. Forget about what might go wrong. What do you actually want? Maya closed her eyes. When she opened them again, she looked directly at him. I want you. I want to see where this goes. I want to stop running. She took a shaky breath. But I'm still scared. Then we'll be scared together, Daniel said. He stepped closer, giving her the choice to move away. She didn't. We'll talk to Lisa. We'll be honest with her. We'll deal with whatever comes. But we'll do it together. The afternoon passed too quickly. They packed their things slowly, neither wanting to be the first to leave. Finally, with bags in hand and the cabin cleaned, they stood by the door. Maya looked around one last time at the place that had changed everything. Such a small cabin, such a big shift in her life. I'm not ready for this to end, she whispered. It's not ending, Daniel said. It's just beginning. They locked the door behind them and walked to their cars. The mountain air smelled fresh and clean after days of rain. Everything looked washed new. Maya felt like she was seeing the world differently now, like something fundamental had shifted inside her. Before getting in her car, she walked to Daniel and took his hand. We're really doing this? We're really doing this, he confirmed. Okay, she said, more to herself than to him. Okay. The drive down the mountain felt surreal. Maya kept checking her rearview mirror, watching Daniel's car following behind hers. Part of her still couldn't believe what had happened over the past few days. Another part of her felt more certain than she'd felt about anything in years. When they reached the bottom of the mountain where the roads split, they both pulled over. Daniel got out of his car and walked to her window. I'm going to call Lisa tonight, he said. I think I should talk to her first. Brother to sister. Then maybe we can all talk together. Maya nodded, her stomach churning with nerves. What if she's really angry? Cree. She might be. She has a right to be. We should have been honest with her from the start. 2 years ago. He reached through her window and took her hand. But Lisa loves us both. She'll come around. It might take time, but she will. How can you be so sure? Because I know my sister. And because what we have is real, she'll see that. They said goodbye reluctantly. And Maya drove home alone with her thoughts. Her small apartment felt strangely empty after the cozy cabin. She unpacked slowly, replaying the past few days in her mind, the awkwardness of that first evening, the slow breaking down of walls, the honesty they'd finally found with each other. Her phone rang that evening. Lisa's name flashed on the screen. Maya's heart jumped into her throat. Daniel must have already talked to her. "Hey," Maya answered, trying to keep her voice steady. "Daniel just called me," Lisa said. Her tone was neutral, impossible to read. "I'm sorry," Maya began. "I know this must be weird for you." "Let me talk," Lisa interrupted. "Just listen for a minute." Maya closed her eyes, bracing herself. "Daniel told me everything. About how you've both felt for 2 years. About what happened at the cabin. About being afraid to tell me." Lisa paused. "And honestly, I'm a little hurt that you didn't trust me enough to be honest sooner. You're my best friend, Maya. Did you really think I'd stand in the way of your happiness?" "I didn't want to make things complicated," Maya said quietly. "Life is complicated," Lisa said. "But you know what? If there's anyone I'd trust with my brother's heart, it's you. And if there's anyone I'd trust to treat you right, it's him." "Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it'll take some getting used to. But I'd rather have 2 people I love be happy together than miserable apart." Relief flooded through Maya so intensely she had to sit down. "Really? Really? Though you both owe me for being so oblivious. I've watched you 2 dance around each other for years. I was starting to think I'd have to lock you in a room together or something." Maya laughed, feeling tears of relief on her cheeks. "The storm kind of did that for you." Best accidental double booking ever," Lisa said. "Now, I want to hear everything. But first, call my brother. He's probably pacing his apartment waiting to hear how this went." After they hung up, Maya immediately called Daniel. He answered on the first ring. "She took it okay?" he asked breathlessly. "She took it better than okay. She's happy for us." She could hear Daniel's sigh of relief through the phone. "I told you she would be. You were right. About a lot of things." "So what now?" Daniel asked. Maya thought about it. They'd crossed so many bridges over the past few days. They'd been honest about their feelings, faced their fears, and somehow come out the other side. But this was just the beginning. "Now we do this for real," Maya said. "No more hiding. No more pretending. We figure this out together." "I like the sound of that," Daniel said softly. They talked for hours that night, making plans. A real first date, not trapped in a cabin but choosing to be together. Meeting each other's friends. Taking things slow but honest. Building something real. When Maya finally went to bed, she felt different, lighter. For 2 years, she'd carried the weight of hidden feelings, of constantly guarding herself, of running from something that might have been good. Now, finally, she was free to just feel, free to be honest, free to see where this could go. The storm had trapped them together, forced them to face what they'd been avoiding. But it had also freed them from pretending, from fear, from the careful distance they'd maintained. As she drifted off to sleep, Maya smiled. Sometimes the things we run from are exactly the things we need to face. Sometimes getting stuck is the only way to finally move forward. And sometimes, the person you've been avoiding is the one you've been looking for all along. The rain was over. The sky was clear. And for the first time in a long time, Maya couldn't wait to see what came next.